Tuesday edition. It's Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, and a slide fall for Shedeur Sanders that might actually be able to help the Denver Broncos, Mace.
Perhaps, because if you talk about him falling and maybe a team taking him instead of taking somebody that might be on the Broncos' radar that could help. It's the domino effect, right? Does the domino effect help somebody be available at the Broncos that perhaps you think might not be available? That's what you're pulling for. When you sit there at 20, you're hoping some things fall in place ahead of you to change what you think the board might look like. I think what we have to sit here today and talk about is there could be a big four of Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, and the reality that none of the big four may be on the board when the Broncos pick 20. What's the chance of one of them being available? What could enhance the chances of one of them being available? And I'd say maybe a Shedeur Sanders drop to pick 9, pick 10, pick 12, pick 13 might enhance those chances a little bit.
Yeah, move the chances back. And another way it can help the Denver Broncos, and I got this from Jimmy Haslam being at a pro day, Mace. Now, you and I have been to some pro days. You and I understand what goes on at pro days. An owner at a pro day is a little different. So I thought, okay, is Cleveland trying to get both buffs? This isn't a Brown show, but if they were trying to get both buffs and they take Travis instead of Shedeur at 2, could they try to trade back in at 20 and get Shedeur? Because if we're thinking about the big four, and we'll have conversations about those, of course, over the next couple of weeks, but I think, how is 20 hot? How is 20 hot? 20's hot if a quarterback's there and you're sitting in front of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who still, as of this recording, don't have Aaron Rodgers, if that's going to happen. You know what I mean? So can Shedeur's fall help the Broncos in one way by pushing talent back to them? And then can it help the Broncos in another way by, if he really falls like an Aaron Rodgers type of fall, can someone like Cleveland say, you know what, Denver, here's a bunch of picks, give us 20 so we can get Travis at 2 and Shedeur at 20?
Perhaps. I mean, we've heard some rumors about, say, the Giants maybe wanting to move up. The Browns would be interesting.
Right.
The question is, what would you get from the Browns? Like that's where we start looking at their draft capital. They have picks 33, 67, 94, 104, and then 3 or 4 round 6 picks, and then around 7 picks. So they've got 2 third-round picks and a 4th round pick and a 2nd round pick. If they want pick 20, you'd say, okay, you'd be falling back to pick 33. What would you take to fall back 13 picks?
Well, of course, the draft pick calculator would have to do the math right. But if you take their pick at 33 and then both of those third rounders, I'm not sure if the math is exactly correct, but I'm kind of greedy. And 2nd and 2 third rounders to move back 13 picks. And let's say, again, the big four conversation, let's say it's Quinshon Judkins at 33. And it's because you don't have a chance at Hampton at 20. It's going to be a fluid thing. And if there's a Shedeur fall and there's a run on the big four, you've got to have some maneuverability. And I think 33 and 2/3, it's kind of nice, right? 33 and 3 and 3.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, it depends how far Shedeur Sanders falls. If the drop stops at New Orleans at 9, then this isn't a conversation. And I think there's a decent chance the drop may fall. It may stop at 9 with the Saints. So if that's what happens, this is immaterial. It's like you said, if it's an Aaron Rodgers fall. Now, the draft value chart says, let's go by the Jimmy Johnson chart, since that's sort of the easiest one to wrap your arms around, to wrap everyone's arms around. Okay. Pick 20 is worth 850. Pick 33 is worth 560.
Okay.
Pick 67 is worth 255. So 560, 255 is correct me if my math is wrong, is 315, or is not 315, sorry, it's 815. Okay. So that gets you to close to 850. So if you added pick 94, obviously that would be a pick that would be a trade imbalance in favor of the Broncos. But historically, when you've had draft trades up for a quarterback, there has been a premium. In other words, teams that trade up for a quarterback, they get, there's an imbalance in favor of the team that trades down. So in the vast majority of trades. So if you're the Broncos and the Cleveland Browns call with this deal and Shedeur has fallen to 20. And first of all, I think you only make this trade if none of the big four are available at this point. If one of those four is available, I think you stand pat and pick one of them. If none of them are available, I think you pick up the phone, but I think you only make this deal for 33, 67, 94. Only make the deal for that. Because one of the things then you can do is, if you have a deal that gets you those picks, then I think you take one of those third round picks that you have and you go back up into round one, and then you pick late in the first round, and then you get a guy, you can get that 5th-year option. But if the Browns aren't willing to part with both of those third rounders, I don't think I do it, Cease, because if they want Shedeur, I'm demanding that quarterback premium that historically you've been able to get in these types of deals.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, Mace, it's almost the same butterfly effect.
Yeah.
If there's a Shedeur fall where there's a chance the Broncos could move back to 33 because the Browns really want him, well, that's because the big four have been selected.
Yeah.
And it pushes Shedeur back. If Shedeur gets picked at 9, and the Saints are interested in Quinn Ewers, they're bringing in top 30. Don't get me started on Quinn Ewers, but if the Saints pass on him, I mean, where's he going to go? Unless it's to one of those teams at the top that seem to like him, but not like him at 2, or not like him at 3. They like him at 20 a lot better.
So if the Shedeur fall stops somewhere around 8, 9, 10, it's, in that range,
Hampton.
It's potentially good for the Broncos. I mean,
yes.
Hey, what if Jerry Jones throws a curveball to everybody and picks Shedeur at 12?
Oh. It's Jerry. You never know.
Hey, I love my Dion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And pick Shedeur Sanders instead of Omarion Hampton. Like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the sort of crazy thing that Jerry would do because he loves Deion Sanders?
And doesn't it seem at this point, where we're 2 weeks and change away from the draft, everyone still has their first round pick? Are we staring at craziness? Because NFL can't stand this, right? They're like, everyone still has their first round pick. Do something nuts. Hey, Jerry, you're up.
The NFL abhors a vacuum, and the NFL abhors draft normalcy.
Yep. Chaos.
I mean, this is the time now, as we get within 2 weeks of the draft, especially with things being so quiet, that it's time to put the tinfoil hat on. And okay, I'm going to put a tinfoil hat on right now. Jerry Jones says, I want Deion Sanders to coach my team at some point. What if I get Shedeur Sanders right now, and a year or two from now, I hire Deion Sanders to be my coach, and then Shedeur is already my quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Buffs fans aren't going to want to hear that.
No, they're not. But Dak Prescott's not going to want to hear that either. Yeah. But either way, I think it's something to monitor, because it certainly impacts what the Broncos could have available to them. I did mention yesterday, like, Omarion Hampton's worked out for the Cowboys, or he's scheduled to work out in one of those 30 visits. So I think Dallas, New Orleans, there's some certain spots. The Raiders that are just don't seem to be in line to take Genty right now. And then that's why I think
they're visiting with Genty, though. I mean, they are.
I think they're going defense there. No, we can talk about that, but I think that's why you're having the conversation now of the Jets. Whoa, could they trade Breece Hall and they really like Ashton Genty? Okay, is that real or is that them just going, let's play the game? Because Mace, it's April 8th. It's time to play the game. And that's what everybody seems to be doing right now. You know, if it's boring, if you go boring, you go the Cowboys take Matthew Golden. If you go chaos, you go the Cowboys take Shedeur Sanders if he's there.
The thing with Breece Hall, look, I think we all agree, we both agree Darren Muji knows what the heck he's doing as he looks at that Jets roster and he watches the tape. If Darren Muji's first evaluation of the tape is, I want to trade Breece Hall, I'm not sure I'm taking the call to pick up Breece Hall. That is caveat emptor right there for me. Especially with this class of running backs, I'm not sure I'm taking a guy who already has a torn ACL on his fuselage, whose per carry average has dropped over the course of his career from 5.8 to 4.5 to 4.2, and is 1 year from his second contract.
Yeah. Going to be looking to get paid.
For me, that's a pass. Unless the cost is ridiculously low, where it's basically like a flyer. Like
one of those 6-rounders.
Yes. 6th round pick for Breece Hall, then I'm doing it. Where it's practically nothing. But it's not changing my plan as to whether I'm drafting a running back early. Then it's just another guy in the room.
Mm-hmm. A veteran guy, which they don't have right now.
But if you heard Sean Payton last week, he wants to see what his running backs in the room have. Now, as we know, there might be smoke screens and all that. But remember back in the Chargers game, there are always little nuggets that the announcers share from the production meetings.
Those are fun.
Remember when Blake Watson was out there, how Kirk Herbstreit was talking about how Sean Payton was raving about Blake Watson's potential?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sean Payton really wants to see what Blake Watson has. I think of the running backs that he was referring to last week in that long answer when I asked him about running back traits that he's looking for when he's studying them leading up to the draft and saying he wants to see what he has in the running backs that are in the room. I think the one he really wants to see and explore and find out what he's got is Blake Watson.
I think it has to be. We already know what Jaleel McLaughlin is. I don't think there's much more there than what he's already done, and that's not a slight. It's just the truth.
But he's going to be on this team.
He's got a spot on this team for sure. Yeah. It's just, have we seen the best of blank? Have we seen the best of Jaleel McLaughlin? Yeah, pretty much. Audric Estime, it's not real exciting. Can't beat out Javonte Williams fumbles. Don't like it.
There's meat on the bone for Blake Watson.
Yes.
A lot of meat on the bone.
And interest and intrigue, right? And a skill set that fits what Sean Payton likes. But they'll still take Omarion Hampton as the one, or Quinshon Judkins as the one.
Yeah.
Or they may move down. You know, it's more darts theory. And if Sean Payton falls in love with a guy, and maybe it's Judkins, you're not taking Judkins at 20. Hampton at 20 is, I don't think, a stretch. I have a 2nd-round grade on him. He's a second back in this class. But it's like Hampton at 20 is not a stretch. Judkins at 20 is a stretch. Judkins at 33 feels a lot nicer.
Yeah. Trevion Henderson at 20. I know some people love him, but for me, he's a stretch at 20.
That's a stretch.
Yeah.
That's a stretch. There's basically 3, and didn't Sean allude to this at owners' meetings where there's, there's not that many, or was it George that said there's not that many of the full-time backs? I think there's 3.
Yes. I agree, but there's 2 first-round.
Yes.
Full, every down backs. And then I think to me, the other every down back from day 2 into day 3, I know our friend Chad Ryder sees him as a day 3 back. I see him as a third round every down back. To me, that's Devin Neal.
Yes. I'm so glad you said his name.
I love Devin Neal. It was for me, Devin Neal, it was the revelation I had on him was I'll admit the revelation I had on him was watching the CUKU game back in November.
Mm-hmm.
That was where, and a game that had quite a bit of star power, right? Not just the guys on CU, but Kobe Bryant over on the KU side, a mid-round corner I really like at the Broncos. And again, if you make this deal with the Browns and you sit there with extra third-round picks, and maybe you take an extra third-round pick and add more fourth-round capital, or you stay there in the third. Kobe Bryant, I love his. It's not just the way he plays. I love his attitude. Like I like corners that have dog in them.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's how much the affection I have for the no-fly zone, but I love the sort of attitude that he has. To me, like he fits the attitude I want in a corner, the confidence that I want in a corner, right? That I want guys that don't back down. He doesn't back down. That guy that there's some Aqib Talib in him, man. I love that. I love that. Love that, man. Listening to him at the Shrine Bowl, it's not just watching him play, it's listening to him, man. I'm like, yeah, I want that. I want that guy in my locker room, man.
Didn't he say he wanted to cover Jamar Chase?
Yeah, I'm like, give me that all day long. Give me that confidence all day long, man. Yeah. Give me that fire.
Right.
I mean,
give me those extra picks if you're George Payton, right? Because then you have an opportunity. They want a corner in this draft. Just by all of their visits and who they've been talking to, they will draft a corner. But they can't get Kobe Bryant if they're filling defensive tackle, running back, and another tight end. They can't get Kobe Bryant. He's going to go in the third. But if you get extra picks, Mace, now you could get both Jayhawks.
They want another, they want another corner, and it's not a knock on Riley Moss.
No, not at all.
They want to make sure they're covered depth-wise. They like Chris Abrams-Drain a lot. He came a long way last year. But they just want to make sure they're covered depth-wise. Don't want another situation like the Steelers or the Browns game last year. Don't want that again. Sorry.
Maybe want more darts, though. So we'll see. And there's a few kind of rumblings or things going on in the draft world that if you're a Broncos fan, you may be wanting a Shedeur slide if you are like George Payton. You may not want a Shedeur slide if you want one of the big four. So I think that's something to monitor as we get closer here.
It's the degree of the Shedeur slide is what you have to monitor here. If you want one of the big four, you want that slide to about 8 to 13. Because if that happens, then I think you've pushed somebody down. If the slide goes, as you mentioned at the top of the show, if the slide is Aaron Rodgers like, then I don't think you're ending up with Hampton, Genty, Warren, or Loveland. I think they're all gone.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on the situation. And Mace, before we're out of here today, we also have to get help from folks on YouTube. How can we do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell.
Nice microphone.
Thank you.
And as always, do that so that you never miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.